Hello everybody. I might just add this video. I'm making this one in the afternoon of the other one that you're going to maybe see them both together. The previous one that I made, that you see before this, I forget dates. Why make another one right now? Because I'm reading the Sunday paper, the date of this video, Sunday paper. Separate ruling could affect the capital case. We have many cases being overturned. These cases are overturned because of acknowledged criminal activity by prosecutors and police. Acknowledged. The Oasis County it is considered the second most corrupt county in the United States of America. And it does not have that rating for no good reason. And as a newspaper reader over the years, this is the capital case. There's enough actual statements by the district attorney in this county and other law enforcement officials made in court before Judge Nanette Hassett. There were enough cases of retribution against the prosecutor, Retha Cable, prosecutors who in court have said, we were threatened or told to change testimony, or we needed a gun to do this and that, admitting that they lied. In the Hannah Overton case, those prosecutors did a mea culpa and said, we're sorry, we manipulated, we lied. Enough of these in a normal county, these people would be in prison, these DAs and officers. In this county, you could be involved in felonies on a police department, open public felony, murders and everything, drug dealing, everything. And they let that go on in this county. If I were you, and you thought you were going to relocate to this county, Corpus Christi, it would be like moving into Mexico. I'm not lying to you about this. I've never seen something like this. This is the Gaitan case. Now, Gaitan case I mentioned before. They convicted this kid. They had two suspects in the shooting of a drive-by shooting that killed two young children. Terrible drive-by. And as I watched this case, now this one is fixing to get overturned. Why? In short, the way they solved this case, the police and the prosecutor, is they went to the father at this house where the drive-by occurred. Like the grandfather, his name is Valent. I'll try and post this case. They come one after the other. And they asked the night of the shooting, did you see anybody? Did you recognize anybody? Did you identify a vehicle or anything of that nature? And the man said no. Mr. Valent, I think the grandfather, said no. Then the cops went back to him. This is all on interviews, recorded interviews from the Corpus Christi Police Department, where he said, no, I don't know. Then they went back and said, well, we think Gaitan, this person by the name of Gaitan, did it. But we would need for someone to ID him being there. And this man, Valent, is on record as saying, I did not see anybody. And the cops went and said, well, we think it's him, but we need you to basically say you saw him. So he goes back. This is all in the paper. He goes back to the police and says, oh, I remember now. Gaitan did it. He was the kid that drove by and shot and killed. Okay. How sure are you, the police asked. This is in the paper. He said, I'm 75% sure. They said, well, we need you to be 100% sure, because this is the only evidence in our case. A few days later, Mr. Valent went back and said, I'm 100% sure Gaitan was him. So it went from this man, the sole witness in the case, saying, I have no idea and I did not see anybody. And he told that to the police in interviews. Then when the police said, we need a description because we think it's so-and-so planting the seeds. Then he said, well, maybe 75. No, we need 100. Okay, 100%. That's the entire evidence in this case. You committed crimes right there. All of these are crimes that you did in all of this. So then finally, the cops in this newspaper article said, but there was other evidence. There was a gun. But they didn't tell you, I remember this, it wasn't the gun used in the shooting. They said that night he borrowed a vehicle, possibly because he was out doing some other thing. He was a gang kid. Why do you think that, John? Because the vehicle that the man, Valent, the granddad, said he saw was not the same vehicle, totally different. The gun was different. So we just picked any kid off the street that we can get somebody, and that was the sole evidence in this case. And I remember in that trial, the mother of the children, when the man was convicted, capped life in prison, got time. The mother, they knew each other, they were related in all this family. The mother said, Gaitan said, you know I didn't do this. Mad. And the mother, I remember in court said, well, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm sure the police also spoke to that mother and said, we think it's him. All illegal activity. All illegal activity. This is in the paper, Mayor, Commissioners. This is in the paper. You want to promote this place. I'm going to add it in with the other one. Let me see if I should read anything else. The courts, you know who they interviewed now? There was a former district attorney, Grant Jones. They had to ask him about this. And the former, because the current one, Skirka, if he is not sent to prison for the amount of stuff that they've already shown, years of false testimony. It is in the Gaitan case where there was another kid who stood up in a court that he was in and said in court, they're asking me to frame Gaitan. He said this was that case. I would not feel safe driving. Well, you know my story. Cops follow me all the time. If you were a citizen that were going to move to this region, I would flee. I would flee. You say, John, but I'm a minister here from... Let me tell you something. You might have cops' friends that are not crooked, but this level of corruption is embedded, and they're either aware of it or maybe the newer rookies are not. But this is, I have never seen this. You number 2 in the United States of America for illegal activity and corruption. And Grant Jones said, obviously the higher courts of Texas keep overturning murder convictions. Detectives told the man they suspected Gaitan, but they said they didn't have enough evidence. This is all in record. Days later, Valent went to the police and told the detectives he remembered seeing him. Oh, now I remember. The police asked Valent how sure he was that the shooter was Gaitan. Valent told them 75%. Detective said, we need 100%. He then told them, yeah, it's 100. I can't. This is all in the newspapers. I'll add this. I think I'll just add this with the other one. And these cases are back to back in the paper. Stand fast and prepare thee, for the sword shall devour round about thee. I hope you are aware, you local judges, that all these, the Justice Department gets my website, okay? Because I send it to them. But all they got to do is read the paper. Let's see. They fled to hide themselves, and I was left alone. Greatly beloved, understand the words and speak, for unto thee am I now sent. From the first day you tried to understand, discipline yourself, your words were heard, and I am come for thy words. Behold, he travaileth with iniquity, and hath conceived mischief. Crooked cops, and brought forth falsehood. He made a pit and digged it, and is fallen into the ditch which he made. His mischief shall return upon his own head, and his violent dealing upon his own pay. When you in authority do this, you're committing a grave injustice. One of the 10 Commandments is you shall not bear false witness. And you suborn perjury by sending people because you need to solve a particular crime. And your concern is not to get the kid who did the crime. Your concern is simply to use deception. And in the police department, in my experience, threats, friends of mine, actually assaulted with the full acknowledgement of every cop in the city that was over him at the time. Assault and open, public. I won't go long because I'm going to just add this. I'll just title this the Gaitan case. I'll try to add the video to it. Oh, I just posted one. Let's see. I made a, forget where it is now. I just did it. Put up another verse earlier today. I'll just pick one from my many. For they intended evil against thee. They imagined a mischievous device which they are not able to perform. Therefore thou shalt make them turn their back, when thou shalt make ready thine arrows upon thy strings against the face of them. The word of God. Your sons are like arrows, it says. You communicate truth, and other people continue to speak that, and then it becomes the voice of the Lord is like many waters. Then you have a ripple effect. And many of my friends who were victims of police abuse, sexual, giving oral sex to a cop, many of them were so afraid. And some of them were put in jail on, things that they said, we'll just arrest you. I'll arrest you whenever I see you do. So they were in intimidation. You have an impression. I watched on the news the other night. A black woman that was a relative of the black kid that was killed in New York City, and this was an Asian cop. I think his name was Liang or Lang, but this was a famous case, came out this last year. They were walking through one of the projects in New York, forget Brooklyn, Bronx, but it was a housing project, and this Asian officer was a rookie cop, and a black girl and her boyfriend, with the common law husband, they had a child. I forget his name right now, but the Asian cop pulled his gun and shot that black kid. Well, that was another one of those cases. Killed him. Well, that officer, he was fired. I think it's Peter Liang is his name. He was fired, and he's got probation. But they were interviewing one of the relatives of the black kid killed, and they also had an Asian person that was there to speak on behalf of the cop. But the mother, the grandmother, whoever, was very mad. And she said, because they said, well, this is the way they dealt with it. And I tried to listen to both sides. But that grandmother said, you, to the Asian, I think he might have been an ex-officer himself. But she said, you don't understand. She said, my little black grandkids, daughters, grandsons, we live in fear every day from your oppression, because you have a system in this country, and the New York cops do it too, that whenever the families of Eric Garner and these they organize just to be smartasses and to drive by these people's homes and to shine lights in their windows, but they're organized because they have a complete system to get on their cop phone or radio and say, go check out, we just saw this guy at the Rockefeller Center, the grandma's there, just go park next to her. This is a level of organized criminal activity and oppression We called for the overthrow of a leader of a country by the name of Mubarak, Hosni Mubarak. 30-something years was the king of Egypt. We backed his overthrow and protests for one primary reason. The cops in Egypt were abusive, and we called and backed the overthrow of an entire country. That was the objection. His police officers in Egypt were abusive. And when you see these things, there was a cop on Lippard Street, I'm telling you, they never even investigated. He was driving at night on Leopard. I know cops speed at night, and oftentimes they don't have, they very rarely have we used to have code 1 and code 2 and code 3, lights and sirens, lights. But if you're not going on a run, like an emergency run, cops will also often do 20 miles over the speed limit, because they're cops. Well, it was at night. You're not supposed to speed, but I see them all the time cutting in front of people. He ran somebody over. I forget if he killed him. I don't know if it was a black man, but he ran him over. And I'm sure the dash video showed the man walking across the street. Now, I guarantee you that officer was speeding. If you run somebody over at night and you're speeding, you're going to be charged. You're going to be charged for something. Vehicular homicide. They never investigated that. Leopard Street this happened. I don't even remember them interviewing the man that was run over or his family. But they did a little story about the officer himself. They said, he was shaken up. After all, his vehicle got damaged because it hit a civilian while he was committing a crime. And you got no investigation. Look, I didn't expect them to investigate that if you got him out here collecting guns at members of organized crime. Cops, on-duty officers, according to the testimony of Matt. I forget Matt's last name. Matt something. I'll show you Matt. If you want to investigate, you're not concerned with it. You're too busy committing crimes left and right. Where's that other verse? I have pursued mine enemies and overtaken them. Neither did I turn again until they were consumed. I have wounded them that they were not able to rise up. This is the word of the Lord, he said. This is the word of the Lord. You stand before God's court. Your testimony in this system here is absolutely proven to be false testimony from sunup to sunset, admitted in the court. Courts of law. I should play my little... I got that in Mexico when I walked into Mexico. You want me? We'll just change your whole... No more teaching. I'm just going to play the accordion for you. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, I will bring my word upon this city for evil and not for good. And they shall be accomplished in that day before thee. But I will deliver thee in that day, saith the Lord, and thou shalt not be given into the hand of the people of whom you are afraid. See, prophetic, the prophets, God said, don't be afraid to speak the word. Don't fear them who can kill the body, and guarantee you that's a threat they put on you. Do not fear them who can kill the body, but cannot do anything to the soul. But fear him who after he has killed, this is the words of Jesus talking about the Father. You said, John, should we go to the Greek and re-understand that? Because surely God wouldn't kill. It says, after he has killed, he has power to cast into hell. Let's see. What scripture would confirm that? See now that even I am he, and there is no God with me. I kill, and I make alive. This is God. I wound and heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. For I lift up my hand to heaven and say, I live forever. That's God saying that.